I escaped my abuser, only to fall for Seoul's most dangerous man. What happens when freedom tastes like danger, and the man offering you salvation has blood on his hands? 23-year-old Flora Bennett thought she knew what rock bottom felt like. She'd clawed her way out of London, left behind bruises that finally healed, and a man who promised he'd find her anywhere. Seoul was supposed to be her fresh start, her chance to breathe without looking over her shoulder. But freedom's expensive when you're living in a moldy studio with a landlord who won't fix the heat, working 2 jobs that barely cover rice and rent. Then he walked into her life. Chung Mao, 6 feet of designer suits and dangerous smiles, with eyes that could strip you bare and hands that had definitely killed before. He offered her an apartment she couldn't afford, asked questions she shouldn't answer, and looked at her like she was something worth protecting and destroying all at once. This is about what happens when your savior is more terrifying than what you ran from. About falling in love with a man whose kindness comes wrapped in violence. About discovering that sometimes the only way to be truly free is to choose your own cage. Let's dive in. The water was brown again. Flora stood in her bathroom, watching rust-colored liquid sputter from the tap, and tried not to cry. 3 months in Seoul, and she'd learned to expect disappointment. Broken promises from landlords who stopped answering calls. Jobs that paid less than advertised. Kimchi that was starting to taste like survival instead of novelty. Her phone buzzed. Final notice. Rent due in 48 hours. She didn't have it. The hospital still hadn't processed her insurance claim from when she'd fainted at her restaurant job last month. Dehydration, they'd said. Malnutrition, they'd meant. And she'd sent half her last paycheck to her younger brother back in London because he'd asked, and she'd never learned how to say no to people she loved. 23 and starting over was supposed to feel empowering. Instead, it felt like drowning in slow motion. The knock came at 10 p.m. Flora's entire body went rigid. Nobody knocked at 10 p.m. Nobody knew where she lived. She'd made sure of that. Old instincts from London, from him, from 2 years of checking locks 3 times and sleeping with her shoes on in case she needed to run. Flora Bennett. Male voice, deep, speaking English with a Korean accent that somehow made her name sound elegant instead of ordinary. Her hand found the kitchen knife she kept by the door. "Who are you?" "My name is Chung Mao. Your brother's girlfriend gave me your address. I'd like to help you." Her brother's girlfriend. Maya, the only person who knew she was in Seoul. Flora's fingers tightened on the knife as she cracked the door open, chain still attached. The man standing in her hallway looked like he'd stepped out of a cologne advertisement. Tall, impossibly handsome in a way that felt dangerous, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. His hair was styled back from a face all sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes, dark and intense, and currently studying her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. "Help me how?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I own properties throughout Seoul." His gaze drifted past her into the apartment, taking in the water stains spreading across her ceiling, the sleeping bag on the floor because she'd sold her mattress last week. "One of my tenants broke their lease. 2-bedroom in Gangnam, fully furnished. You can have it." Flora's grip on the knife tightened. "Why would you do that?" "Because I need someone trustworthy to occupy it. The building's had security issues. Your presence solves that problem." "You don't know me. Your brother vouches for you. That's sufficient." He pulled out a business card, slid it through the gap. Chung Mao, import, export, a phone number. Nothing else. "Think about it," he said, and then he was walking away. Expensive shoes silent on the hallway carpet. Flora stared at the card until her vision blurred. She should throw it away. Should recognize this for the trap it obviously was. Nobody offered apartments in Gangnam to broke English teachers living in Itaewon slums. But that night, lying in her sleeping bag listening to her neighbor's screaming match through paper-thin walls, she couldn't stop thinking about his offer. About the way he'd looked at her, not with pity, but with something that felt like recognition. 2 days later, Standing outside her landlord's office with empty pockets and nowhere to go, Flora made the call. The building was glass and steel, and so far above her pay grade it hurt to look at. Flora walked into the marble lobby feeling like an imposter in her worn jeans and second-hand coat. The doorman's expression confirmed it. She didn't belong here. "I'm here to see Chung Mao." His face transformed immediately. 15th floor. Elevator to your left, Miss, Bennett. Ms. Bennett, Mr. Chung is expecting you. The elevator had mirrors on every wall. Flora avoided her reflection. She knew what she'd see. A girl who'd lost too much weight, with circles under her eyes and hair that needed cutting, desperation written in every sharp angle of her face. Chung was waiting when the doors opened. Same expensive suit, same unreadable expression. But something flickered in his eyes when he saw her, something that made her pulse kick uncomfortably. "You came. I need a place to stay. Then let me show you." He led her down a carpeted hallway to the last door, pulled out a key. The apartment beyond made her forget how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's skyline. Hardwood floors that gleamed. Furniture that looked straight from a magazine. A kitchen with appliances that actually worked. 2 bedrooms with actual beds that had actual mattresses. "This is too much," Flora whispered. "Rent is 300,001 monthly. That was nothing. A fraction of what this place should cost." She turned to face him. "What's the catch?" "No guests without my permission. Don't give out this address. If you see anything suspicious, tell me immediately." His eyes locked on hers. "And if anyone asks about me, you don't know anything." Red flags everywhere, waving frantically. "What do you really do, Mr. Chung?" "Import and export, as stated." "Of what?" His smile was all edges. "Things people need. Sometimes things they don't realize they need until I provide them. I'm not getting involved in anything illegal. I'm not asking you to." He moved closer, and Flora's breath caught. "What I do outside these walls is my concern. But I'll tell you this. You'll be safer here than you've been in years. This building has security. Cameras, guards. Nobody enters without clearance." Her heart clenched. How did he know? "Maya told you. Maya is worried. Your brother is worried." Something softened in his expression. "Let me help." She should walk away. Should recognize that men who offer too good deals always want something in return. Should remember that she came to Seoul to escape dangerous men, not move into apartments they owned. "Okay." The word escaped before she could stop it. Chung's smile was slow, satisfied. "Smart girl." He handed her the key. "I'll have someone collect your things from Itaewon tomorrow. Get settled. Rest. You look like you haven't slept properly in months." He was almost at the door when she called out, "Why are you really doing this?" He paused, looked back. For one moment, something raw flickered across his face. "Because I know what it's like to have nowhere to go. Nobody should feel that way." Then he was gone. The first week felt like a dream. Flora slept in a real bed, cooked in a kitchen where everything worked, stood at those massive windows watching the city lights, and felt something like peace settling into her bones. Chung didn't contact her, didn't stop by. She started to relax, started to think maybe this was exactly what he'd said, a simple business arrangement. Until the 8th night, when she heard the front door open at 3 a.m. If you're already hooked and your heart is pounding, smash that subscribe button right now because this tension is only getting started. Drop a like and tell me in the comments if you think Flora should trust this man. Because I promise you, nothing in this story is what it seems. Flora sat up in bed, heart hammering. She'd locked that door, triple-checked it. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. Mail. She grabbed her phone, finger hovering over emergency services when her bedroom door opened. Chung Mao stood there, and Flora's breath caught for all the wrong reasons. His suit jacket was gone. White shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. Blood on his knuckles. A cut above his eyebrow, still bleeding. "What happened to you?" Business. He walked straight to her bathroom without asking, flipped on the light, started running water in the sink. Flora followed, watched him wash blood from his hands with methodical precision. The water ran pink, then clear. "You're hurt. I've had worse." She found herself moving closer, grabbing a washcloth, dampening it. "Sit." He raised an eyebrow but obeyed, perching on the edge of her bathtub. Flora stood between his legs, cleaning the cut on his face with trembling hands. This close, she could smell him, expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more dangerous. Could see the way his jaw clenched when she pressed too hard, could feel the heat radiating from his body.
"Why did you come here?" Her voice came out breathless. "This is my apartment. You know what I mean." His hand caught her wrist, stilling her movements. "Because it's the only place in this city where I can breathe." The admission hung between them, raw and unexpected. "Churng Mao." His thumb brushed across her pulse point. "When it's just us, call me Mao." Her heart was racing and she knew he could feel it. "Mao, what kind of business are you really in? The kind where weakness gets you killed, where showing mercy is a death sentence, where I do things that would make you look at me differently if you knew." His grip tightened slightly. "So don't ask questions you don't want answers to." She should pull away, should demand he leave, should remember that she came to Seoul to escape dangerous men, not stand between the legs of one in her bathroom at 3 a.m. But there was something in his eyes, something broken that called to the broken parts in her. "Why me? Why help me specifically?" "I saw your photo on Maya's phone when your brother was showing me pictures. You were laughing." His free hand came up, tucking hair behind her ear. "Really laughing, and I thought, she looks free." Flora's throat tightened. "But then your brother told me what you were running from, about London, about your ex, about how scared you still are." His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "And you weren't free at all. You were just better at pretending. I know that look, Flora. I wear it every day." Something cracked open in her chest. "You need to leave." But she didn't mean it, and they both knew it. "Tell me to go, and I will." She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. Mao stood, and suddenly she was backed against the bathroom wall, his hands braced on either side of her head. "This is a bad idea. I know. I'm not a good man. I know that too." His forehead dropped to hers. "If I kiss you right now, everything changes. You understand that?" Instead of answering, Flora closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like they were both testing boundaries. But then his hand slid into her hair, and the kiss deepened, became something fierce and desperate and inevitable. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Mao's expression was conflicted. "I should go." "You should." But neither of them moved. "One night," he said quietly. "Give me one night where I don't have to be who I am out there, where I can just be a man with a woman who makes him forget." The vulnerability in his voice destroyed her. "Okay." Morning came with sunlight and regret in equal measure. Flora woke alone. For a moment, she thought maybe she'd dreamed it, but then she saw the note on her nightstand. "Had to go. Don't overthink this." Don't overthink this. Right. Because sleeping with her landlord, who was clearly involved in something illegal, was totally normal. She spent the day in a daze, went to her teaching job at the language school, came home, made dinner she didn't eat, and tried not to think about the way Mao had looked at her, touched her, whispered her name like a prayer. He didn't come back that night, or the next. By the third night, Flora was starting to think she'd been right to regret everything. One night, that's all he'd wanted. She was curled on the couch at midnight when her phone buzzed. "Come down to the parking garage, now." No signature. But she knew. Flora should ignore it, should stay safely in her apartment and pretend this whole thing never happened. Instead, she grabbed her shoes. Mao was leaning against a black Range Rover, arms crossed, still wearing a suit, still devastatingly handsome, still looking at her like she was something precious and dangerous all at once. "Get in." "Where are we going?" "Does it matter?" "It should."
It absolutely should. Flora got in the car. They drove in silence through Seoul's late-night streets, past Gangnam, past Itaewon, into areas Flora didn't recognize. Mao's jaw was tight, hands gripping the wheel with barely controlled tension. "Are you going to tell me what's wrong?" I tried to stay away. His voice was rough. "Spent 3 days trying to convince myself that sleeping with you was a mistake, that I should keep my distance, let you live your life without dragging you into mine." Flora waited. "And I can't." He took a sharp turn. "I can't stop thinking about you, can't sleep, can't focus. You're in my head, Flora, and I don't know how to make it stop." Her breath caught. "Why does it need to stop?" He pulled over abruptly, turning to face her. In the dim light from the street lamps, his expression was agonized. "Because caring about someone in my world is a death sentence. The people I love become targets, leverage, the moment anyone finds out about you." His jaw clenched. "Do you understand what I'm saying? You're saying caring about me is dangerous. I'm saying caring about you might get you killed." Silence filled the car. "So why did you text me?" Flora's voice was steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. "Why bring me out here?" "Because I'm selfish." Mao reached for her, pulling her across the console until she was practically in his lap. "Because 3 days without you felt like 3 years. Because I'd rather have you in my life and spend every second terrified for you than not have you at all." "That's insane." "Welcome to my world, sweetheart." His hand cupped her face. "Tell me to take you home. Tell me you don't want this. Lie to me if you have to. Just give me a reason to do the right thing and walk away." Flora searched his eyes, saw the same desperation she felt, the same impossible pull. "I don't want you to walk away." Something in him broke. The kiss was consuming, all-encompassing, like he was trying to crawl inside her skin. Flora's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing more. "We can't do this in the car." Mao's voice was strained. "Then take me somewhere we can." He drove like the devil himself was chasing them. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a building Flora didn't recognize. Mao led her inside, through a lobby, into an elevator that required a key card. The penthouse they entered made her Gangnam apartment look modest. "You live here?" "When I need to disappear." He pulled her close, backing her toward the bedroom. "Nobody knows about this place except my most trusted people. You're safe here." Safe. What a strange concept. She hadn't felt safe in years. But standing there in Mao's arms, feeling his heart race against hers, she felt something close to it. They made it to the bedroom. Clothes disappeared. Walls came down. And for those few hours, neither of them was running from anything. 3 weeks blurred together in stolen moments. During the day, Flora taught English to Korean businessmen, attended her language classes, lived her normal life. But at night, she became someone else. Someone who slipped into black cars and secret penthouses. Someone who fell more deeply in love with a dangerous man every time he looked at her. Mao showed her his world in pieces, took her to underground restaurants where powerful men bowed to him, introduced her to his driver, Mr. Kim, who looked at her with something like pity, taught her which streets to avoid, which people to never make eye contact with. "I need you to promise me something," he said one night as they lay tangled in his sheets. "What?" "If something happens to me, don't." He pulled her closer. "If something happens, if I don't come back one night, you pack a bag and you leave Seoul. There's money in an account under your name. Mr. Kim has the details. You take it and you run." Terror gripped her chest. "What's going to happen?" "Nothing if I'm careful." But his jaw was tight. "There's a situation developing. Korean gangs, Chinese triads, Russian bratva. Everyone wants a piece of Seoul right now. Territory disputes, the kind that get bloody. Then stop. Walk away." "I can't. I built this empire from nothing. I'm not handing it over because some foreigners think they can take it." His hand slid into her hair. "But I need to know you'll be safe. Promise me, Flora." She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she wouldn't leave, wouldn't abandon him, but the fear in his eyes was real. I promise. 2 nights later, everything changed. Flora was leaving her language class when she felt it. That old familiar sensation, eyes on her back. She'd felt it before, in London, when he used to follow her, track her movements, show up wherever she went to remind her that she couldn't escape. She walked faster, took a random turn, ducked into a cafe. Through the window, she saw him, a man in a dark jacket, Western, maybe Russian based on his features, watching the cafe with calculated patience. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Mao answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" "There's someone following me." "Where are you?" His voice went cold, deadly. She gave him the address. "Flora, I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart. I know." She heard car doors, shouted orders in Korean. "Stay inside. Don't move. I'm coming." He was there in 10 minutes. Flora saw the black Range Rover pull up, saw Mao exit with 3 other men, saw the way the man following her took one look at them and ran. Mao's men gave chase. Mao came inside, eyes scanning the cafe until they landed on her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, unable to speak. He pulled her into his arms right there in the middle of the cafe, not caring who saw. "I've got you. You're safe." "Who was he?" "Russian Bratva." Mao's jaw clenched. "They're making a move. Must have found out about you. Decided you'd make good leverage." The implication hit her like ice water. "Because of me. Because we're together. This isn't your fault." "Isn't it?" She pulled back. "You said it yourself. People you care about become targets." "Flora, I should leave Seoul." "No." The word cracked like a whip. "I'll make it clear that you're off limits, that anyone who touches you dies screaming." The casual violence in his tone should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel something else entirely. Protected, claimed. "Take me to the penthouse." That night, they didn't talk about the Russian, didn't talk about the danger or the future or any of it. They just held each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. The war started 3 days later. Flora woke in the penthouse to the sound of Mao's phone ringing incessantly. She watched him answer, watched his expression go cold and hard. "How many?" A pause. "Get everyone to the warehouse. I'm on my way." "What happened?" "The Russians hit one of my shipments, killed 3 of my men." He was already dressing, pulling on tactical gear she'd never seen before. "I have to go." "Mao, stay here. Don't leave for any reason. Mr. Kim is posted outside." He crossed to her, kissed her hard. "I love you. Remember that. Don't say it like you're not coming back." But he was already gone. Flora spent that day in agony, pacing the penthouse, calling Mao's phone over and over with no answer, watching the news for reports of violence in Seoul. When night fell with no word, terror set in. At midnight, the penthouse door opened. Mao stood there, and Flora's heart stopped. Blood. So much blood. His shirt was soaked with it. His face splattered. He swayed in the doorway, and she saw it then. The wound in his side, still bleeding. "Oh my God." She rushed to him, caught him as he stumbled. "Hospital. We need to get you to a hospital. No hospitals, no doctors." He pressed a hand to his side. "Medical supplies. Bathroom cabinet." She helped him to the couch, hands shaking as she gathered what she needed. The wound was deep, a knife cut that had barely missed vital organs. "This needs stitches." "Then stitch it." He handed her a bottle of whiskey. "I've had worse." Flora had never done anything like this before, but she'd watched enough medical dramas, and Mao talked her through it with gritted teeth and whiskey-rough instructions. When she finally finished, his face was gray with pain. "The Russians? Dead. All of them." He said it flatly. "I made an example. Made it clear what happens when someone comes after what's mine." "How many?" "You don't want to know." But she did. She wanted to know exactly who she'd fallen in love with, what he was capable of. "Tell me." His eyes met hers, dark and unflinching. 12. 12 men dead because of her. Because Mao couldn't let them live after they'd threatened her. Flora should feel horrified, should be repulsed by the violence, by the blood still staining his clothes. Instead, she felt safe. "I'm a monster," Mao said quietly. "You should be running. I know what you are." She moved to sit beside him, careful of his injury. "I've known for weeks, and I love you anyway." The words came out steady. "Sure. I love you because you're a monster, because you'd burn the world down to keep me safe, because when I'm with you, I'm not scared anymore." His hand found hers, squeezed. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not." She leaned against him carefully. "But you have me anyway." They sat like that until dawn, two broken people finding something like wholeness in each other's arms. The next month was a delicate balance. Mao's injury healed slowly. Flora moved into the penthouse officially, stopped pretending she lived in the Gangnam apartment. They existed in their own world, carefully constructed and fiercely protected. But reality had a way of creeping in. Flora's visa was expiring. She had 3 months left in Korea before she'd have to return to England or find another way to stay. "Marry me," Mao said one night over dinner. She choked on her wine. "What?" "Marry me. Solves the visa problem. Keeps you here legally. Gives you my protection officially." He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. That's not how proposals work. How do they work? Usually there's romance. Kneeling. A ring. Something shifted in his expression. Mao stood, pulled a box from his pocket, and got down on one knee right there in the kitchen. "Flora Bennett, I love you more than I've ever loved anything. You walked into my life when I'd forgotten what it meant to feel human. Every moment with you is a gift I don't deserve." He opened the box, revealing a ring that took her breath away. "Marry me. Not because of the visa, not because of convenience. Marry me because I want to spend whatever time I have left making you happy, because you're the only good thing in my violent, bloody world, because I'm completely, irrevocably yours." Tears streamed down her face. "You're serious." "I've never been more serious about anything." She should think about this, should consider the implications, the danger, the life she'd be committing to, should remember that she came to Seoul to find freedom, not chain herself to another man. But Mao wasn't like him. Mao didn't control her out of cruelty. Mao protected her because he loved her. And somehow, in loving him back, Flora had found the freedom she'd been searching for all along. Yes. His smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. He slipped the ring on her finger, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. "We'll do it next week. Small ceremony. Just us and a few witnesses." "Next week? I'm not waiting." His grip on her tightened. "Not when I could lose you. Not when life is this unpredictable. Next week, you become mine officially." The possessiveness should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like coming home. They were married in a small courthouse ceremony with Mr. Kim and 2 of Mao's most trusted men as witnesses. Flora wore a simple white dress. Mao wore a suit that cost more than most people's cars. When the officiant declared them married, he kissed her like he was claiming her soul. The party afterward was anything but simple. Mao had rented out an entire restaurant. The guest list was small but powerful. Men and women from Korea's underground. People who controlled the city's shadows. They bowed to Mao, welcomed Flora with careful respect, and made it clear through every gesture that she was now under the protection of Seoul's most dangerous man. It should have terrified her. Instead, Flora felt powerful. Late in the evening, Mao pulled her onto the dance floor, held her close as they swayed to music she didn't recognize. Happy? Deliriously. She rested her head on his shoulder. "Is this real? Sometimes I think I'll wake up and it'll all be a dream." "It's real, Mrs. Chung." He said her new name like a caress. "You're stuck with me now." "Good." They left the party early, drove to the penthouse, and spent their wedding night the way they spent every night, tangled together, breathless and desperate, like the world might end at any moment, and they needed to make every second count. 3 weeks into married life, the phone call came. Mao was in a meeting when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and answered. Flora watched his expression change from neutral to shocked to devastated in the span of seconds. When? A pause. I understand. I'll handle it. He hung up, just stared at the wall. What happened? My sister. His voice was hollow. Accident in Busan. Car crash. She didn't make it. Flora's heart broke for him. She'd never met his sister, but she knew Mao loved her fiercely, protected her from his world the same way he tried to protect everyone he cared about. I'm so sorry. He nodded mechanically. I need to go to Busan, handle the arrangements, make sure... His voice cracked. Make sure she's taken care of. I'm coming with you. Flora, I'm your wife. You don't do this alone. Something in his face crumpled. Mao pulled her into his arms, buried his face in her hair, and finally let himself break. They drove to Busan the next morning. The funeral was a small affair. Mao had kept his sister separate from his criminal life, so most mourners were her friends and co-workers who had no idea what her brother did for a living, until a man showed up who clearly did know. He was tall, Western, with cold blue eyes and a smile that made Flora's skin crawl. He approached Mao after the service, offered condolences that sounded more like threats. Your sister, tragic accident. His English was accented, Russian. One must be so careful on these roads. Mao's entire body went rigid. What did you say? Only that Seoul has become very dangerous lately. Accidents happen, especially to family members of men who don't know when to back down. The implication hung in the air like poison. You killed her. Mao's voice was barely human. I have no idea what you're talking about. The Russian smiled. But perhaps this tragedy will remind you that you're not untouchable, that everyone you love is vulnerable, including your beautiful new wife. He was gone before Mao could respond. Flora watched her husband's face transform into something inhuman, pure rage, pure grief, pure murder. Mao, get in the car. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. He was already on his phone, barking orders in Korean. I'm going to burn their entire organization to the ground. When they reached the penthouse, Mao kissed her once, fierce and desperate. I love you. Remember that. Don't go. I have to. His hands framed her face. They killed my sister. They threatened you. If I don't end this now, it never ends. Then let me come with you. No. He pressed his forehead to hers. You stay here where it's safe. Mr. Kim and 6 of my best men are posted outside. Nobody gets to you. Understand? She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she couldn't lose him too. But she saw the grief in his eyes, the rage that needed an outlet, and knew nothing she said would stop him. Come back to me. Always. He left at midnight with 20 men. Flora spent that night in agony, knowing that somewhere in Seoul, her husband was waging war. That lives were ending because of grief and love and revenge all tangled together. Dawn came with silence. No phone call, no news, just terrible, suffocating silence. At 8 a.m., Mr. Kim knocked on the door. The expression on his face made Flora's world tilt. No. Mrs. Chung? No, he's fine. He's coming back. He promised. There was a raid. The Russians tipped off the police. Mao and 15 others were arrested. They're taking him to the detention center now. The room spun. How long? With the evidence they have, 20 years minimum. 20 years. A lifetime. A death sentence. I need to see him. They won't allow visitors for 48 hours. Flora felt like she was drowning. The man she'd married 3 weeks ago was gone. The future they'd been building together was erased, and she was alone again. No, not alone. Not this time. Get me a lawyer, the best lawyer in Seoul. I don't care what it costs. Mr. Kim bowed slightly. Mao left instructions, account access, legal contacts, safe houses. Everything you need is in his office safe. The combination is your birthday. Of course it was. Even in planning for his own downfall, Mao had made sure she'd be taken care of. Flora spent the next 48 hours preparing. Meeting with lawyers, liquidating assets, calling in favors from Mao's vast network of connections. When she finally got permission to see him, she walked into that detention center with her head high. Mao sat across from her in the visiting room, wearing prison clothes, bruises on his face from what had clearly been a rough arrest. But when he saw her, his expression transformed. "You shouldn't be here. I'm your wife. Where else would I be?" His hand pressed against the glass between them. "Flora, you need to leave Seoul. Take the money. Go somewhere safe. Start over." "No. This isn't a request. And this isn't a negotiation." She matched his hand with hers, glass separating their palms. "I'm not leaving you. I'm not giving up. We're going to fight this. There's no fighting this. The evidence is solid. The Russians made sure of that. Then we'll break you out." He actually laughed, a broken sound. "You've been watching too many movies. I've been married to you for 3 weeks. I've learned a few things." She leaned closer. "You have connections. People who owe you. Resources they don't know about. We use them. It's too dangerous. I don't care." Her voice was steel. "You saved me, Mao. You gave me a life when I had nothing. You made me feel safe for the first time in years. Now it's my turn to save you." Something shifted in his eyes, hope mixed with fear. "I love you. I love you too." She smiled through tears. "And I'm getting you out of here, even if I have to burn Seoul down to do it." The guard called time. Mao stood reluctantly. "Mrs. Chung, the Russians will come for you now that I'm locked up. They'll see you as unprotected." "Let them try." She met his eyes. "I'm not the scared girl you met 6 months ago. I'm your wife, and I've learned from the best." As she walked out of that detention center, Flora felt something crystallize inside her. Determination, rage, power. Mao had spent months protecting her. Now it was her turn to protect him. And God help anyone who stood in her way. To be continued. If your heart is racing and you're desperate to know what happens next, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like if you're rooting for Flora to break Mao out. And comment below telling me, would you risk everything for the person you love? Because trust me, part 2 is going to be explosive.